first question for tonight goes to Lumpur. How do you stay inspired? What sustains the monastic life? Thank you.
Well, many things. As I was talking about in the talk tonight, one factor is good friends, Dhamma friends, Sangha members who are well practiced. So associating with well practiced monastics will help you in your practice to inspire you and give you some encouragement and insights. If they share their insight, then that often saves you suffering in certain areas. Another one is just keep putting effort into your meditation and your practice, learning the Dhamma and then meditating, developing mindfulness, states of calm and insight. Because the more calm and insight you develop, the less doubts you have about going back to the world or doing anything else. So for me, the thought of going back to the world just doesn't make any sense. Why would I go back to a life of suffering and just trying to accumulate wealth in the world when I can carry on living as a monk? As long as I can live on as a monk, I might as well do this because it's the best opportunity to practice the Dhamma. It just makes sense. I think most people, monastics, if they keep practicing, they might reach that point where they just realize it's more sensible, better to just carry on as a monastic than to go to the lay life. Hopefully, that's what happens. Because it's the most ideal lifestyle for practicing what the Buddha taught. You can practice as a layperson, of course, but your energy is divided over so many things. If you have family, if you have kids, jobs, social commitments, on and on it goes. Whereas, as a monastic, you can devote all your time and energy to the practice of Dhamma Vinaya, meditation. And so it's a more ideal situation to be in. And I just keep reminding myself of that, but I don't really need to remind myself of that. To me, it's just obvious. Doesn't mean to say I haven't had obstacles in my practice. We have defilements, we have attachments, but you just work through them. In the monastic environment, good friends, peaceful place to live and practice, the kind support of the laity, it's all there. So then just keep going. That's my motto. Keep going, don't give up.
Sadhu Lumpur. Next question. Dear Ajahn, you said we should seek out Sangha and teachers, but is this also a form of craving, or is it okay?
Well, it can be, but in the beginning you need your teachers, don't you? I would say it's far riskier not to seek out teachers than to seek out teachers. Anything can become craving, even keeping precepts, offering dana, seeking out a teacher, listening to Dhamma talks can become a basis for craving. Like listening to teachings, we get attached to teachers who maybe we find inspiring and can answer all the questions. But then that attachment, like you say, it can feed craving to the point where you're no longer thinking for yourself or really investigating Dhamma, but you just want to sit and listen to the teacher, whether it's online or in person. And that does happen. We get over-attached to teachers, of course. But especially in the beginning, when we're totally new to the practice, I would say just, you still need a teacher and you need to value the role of a teacher. But as you go along with your practice, will reflect if you're where you may be having attachment to the teacher, where it may be coming up. And you have to learn to be independent from your teacher as well. Any good teacher will teach you that. They'll say, well, you're not practicing to cling to the teacher. The teacher is simply giving you examples, giving you guidance, and then you go off and you have to do your own practice. So sometimes you have to test that. You go away from your teacher and spend time on your own and see what that's like. And then maybe you go back to your teacher and you refer to them and consult them again, and then you go away again. That's one obvious way to deal with the possibility of craving and attachment, is simply test yourself and spend time away. Sometimes the teacher will send you away because they don't want you to cling. So, it can be either from yourself or the teacher. But a lot of people, they have the opposite problem, is they don't want teachers, they don't want anyone telling them anything. Especially nowadays, a lot of people are very independently minded. So they don't really want to give up to a teacher or receive teachings from a teacher other than on their own terms. But their own terms are coming from, you might say, a place of craving, attachment, ignorance. And so some people, they're not willing to listen to a good teacher or take on board what the good teacher has to say. And that's a problem as well. It's another form of craving, isn't it? Some people are stubborn, resistant to good teachings, resistant to the Vinaya training, if you're a monastic. Some people, they don't understand how to practice, and they don't value the teacher. So it can be both ways. You can attach with attraction and desire, you can attach with aversion, with stubbornness. But, teachers are there to be Kalyana Mitta, to listen to, get example from, but then your aim is to go off and practice for yourself, because ultimately you're enlightened by yourself through your own efforts. The teacher can't enlighten you, but they can set you straight when you go wrong. So tonight's talk was about micca and samaditi and micca-ditti. So, if you have a good teacher, you may not live with them or be with them all the time, but if you're getting caught into wrong views or wrong practices, once in a while you go back and you refer to your teacher and talk to them, ask questions or be with them. Maybe they can pick that up and see something that you can't see, because they're further along the path of practice, and they may see things you haven't recognized in yourself or in your views or the way you do things. So a teacher can be invaluable like that, and that's all the way to Nibbana. It's not just for a beginner. I know of monks who have attained samadhi or even attained the path. They're not enlightened yet, not arahants, but they have attained some aspects of the path, but they still need a teacher to point out somewhere where they're going wrong. Maybe a very subtle thing, but it still happens, right up to the point of Nibbana.
Sadhu Lumpur. Next question. Dear Lumpur, if a layperson has friends or associates who you know are a bad influence and lead you towards unskillful actions and views, is it best to subtly, gently try to stop socializing and interacting with them, but also develop metta and goodwill towards them? Sadhu.
Yeah, well, that's the way the Buddha taught, is we cultivate metta, goodwill towards all beings, but how you put that into practice varies from person to person, doesn't it? So like you say, if somebody doesn't have sila, or they have strong wrong views, they're harmful, they're maybe dishonest or aggressive or something, well, you have to act accordingly. So there'll be some people, you still have metta for them, you wish them well, but you may have to avoid them. If someone if someone breaks the law, or they're physically aggressive or abusive, maybe the best thing is just to avoid them. Other people are a mixture, aren't they? Some people have some good characteristics, but they also may have some weaknesses, and it depends what's more prominent perhaps in that person and your relationship to them, who they are, what the situation is. So one thing I noticed is, as you practice the Dhamma, you naturally incline more towards keeping precepts, meditating, living maybe more simply, and in line with the Dhamma. Well, quite naturally, some people around you won't be doing that because they're not practicing the Dhamma, they maybe don't keep precepts, don't meditate. They will naturally drop away without you having to do anything. It will just happen. Sometimes it takes a bit of time, but you tend to find new friends, Dhamma friends, and then some of your older friends or acquaintances you tend to move away from quite naturally because they have different values, different interests. So occasionally you make a decision as, oh, I'm not going to spend time with this person, but actually it will just happen naturally, I think. You incline towards Kalyana Mitta and people who practice the Dhamma. It just makes more sense over time. It may take some time for that to happen. And it doesn't mean to say you turn your back on people, it just means you have less in common with them, so you spend more time with those people you do have things in common with, people who practice the Dhamma.
Sadhu Lumpur. Next question. How to conquer anger and not suppress it?
Well, I think it depends on the situation, the time and place, doesn't it? I mean, if you're so angry you want to throw a punch at somebody, maybe you should suppress it. You're not ready to actually let go of your anger because you're so angry you want to punch someone, then suppress it first. Maybe that's all you can do in that situation. Walk away, turn away, get out of the situation as quickly as possible if it's that bad. But if it's more subtle negativity, you need to investigate it and start looking at what triggers it, what causes it to come up, what's its nature, how do you feel when you're angry? Not peaceful, not comfortable, not good, not peaceful in your mind. Even your body can be affected by anger, can't it? You get tense, you get stressed in your body. Start to notice this by applying mindfulness and then reflecting on what's going on. Maybe get in the habit of asking yourself questions. Do I like being angry? Anger still comes up, of course, but do I like being angry? Do I want this angry state of mind to linger in my mind, or would I prefer if I could end it and let it go? Get the understanding right, and that will help you apply yourself to the problem of anger. Anger coming up, mental states, thoughts. Because anger, I think most people can see it's something that will come up more often if you let it do its thing. You're not trying to practice with it. It will come up more and more often more strongly, more frequently, with greater intensity. And therefore, quite often the consequences are worse over time. Similarly, if you make an effort to become more mindful of anger, to restrain yourself, maybe on the level of speech and action first, stop yourself acting and speaking in anger, which does mean some suppression is going on. But the thing is, you don't just leave it there. Then you start working on the inside, on the state of anger that may be lingering in your mind, the thoughts, the problem, where's it coming from, trying to develop understanding, cultivating the opposite, goodwill, patience, tolerance, compassion. There's a number of things you're developing on the positive side, which will also help to reduce the intensity and the power of anger to take over your mind. But it will take time, so you need the patience and you need to keep working at it. And so whether you're angry or not, I would recommend practicing a metta meditation on the theme of goodwill, compassion, every day. If only for a few minutes, every day do that. As a good antidote and also a preventative, very similar to your physical well-being, your health. You take some supplements, you do exercise, you try to eat healthy food, you do things to help your health, both when you're ill to cure you, but also preventative to stop you getting ill. And it's the same with your mind. Anger is something that you can reduce partly through prevention, cultivating goodwill, generosity, kindness, patience, partly through having some remedies ready when you do get angry to quickly contain it and let it go. So you need lots of patient effort, lots of goodwill, lots of mindfulness. Mindfulness, ultimately it'll be mindfulness that catches your anger and lets it go as a kind of a negative thing that you don't want in your mind. So there's a lot more I could talk about tonight. Maybe I'll just say this much for now. But keep at it, don't give up. I'm sure you can improve your practice.
Sadhu Luang Por. Next question. Dear Luang Por, can a lay person practice and become a Sotapanna within a lifetime, especially in the current modern society? If so, how the lifestyle and practice would look like? Thank you.
Simple answer, yes. Next question. Yes, meaning the practice hasn't changed since the time of the Buddha till today. Noble Eightfold Path has to be cultivated, dukkha has to be understood, the causes of dukkha have to be abandoned, craving and attachment, ignorance. Yeah, it's all in place, it's all there, the teachings are there, the good examples, those who have achieved stream entry or even arahant are there. Everything is there to support you, but part of the problem is navigating, like you say, your second part of your question. You have to kind of navigate through so much these days, so much information, wrong views, right views. Even within the Buddhist community, there's so much choice and so much conflicting information or different choices. You can follow this teacher, this method, that method. It can be overwhelming. But I would say it's still possible, but you have to be disciplined. You have to put in effort. You have to make that the goal of your life. I'm not sure how many people are really making Maggaphala Nibbana, path, fruit, and enlightenment their goal. I think a lot of people see it as a kind of a good idea, maybe a good idea for other people, but not me. Again, that's doubt, isn't it? It's all right for others to do it, but I can't. I'm just not up to it. I don't have the right qualities. I don't have the barami. That's the whole point. You have to make barami. You have to practice. If you're just saying it's okay for other people but not doing it yourself, well, yeah, it's not going to be easy. So you have to commit, make it central to your life, listen, learn, keep practicing, and it's possible. Keep going. Don't give up. Basics are like, respecting the noble ones and the Dhamma of the noble ones, cultivating meditation and mindfulness every day, committing to keeping the precepts, 5 precepts or maybe 8 precepts sometimes, simplifying your life, streamlining it so you're not spending a lot of time on unnecessary things like just kind of habitual accumulation of wealth that you don't really need maybe. Watching out for superstition and wrong beliefs, wrong views that slip into your way of looking at the world, because it can happen, can't it? We can undermine our efforts instead of developing mindfulness and insight into the impermanent way of things. We start to look at life in terms of astrology, or everything is the will of God, or just superstitious sort of beliefs in things, or maybe just applying that to science, just believing somebody because of their level of knowledge or something. All kinds of subtle superstitions and wrong views can slip into our thinking. So there's a range of things that you would be developing if you're practicing for developing stream entry in this life. Number one, I would say, is mindfulness in daily life, committing to that. So introducing mindfulness and right livelihood, right action, right speech, and mindfulness in the way you do things, the way you interact with others, the way you earn your living, the way you live. Introducing mindfulness at every step of the way. Because a lack of mindfulness, a lack of precepts, a lack of wise reflection will always lead to defilements taking over your mind, and you'll be going further away from the path. So again, time is short. Maybe I'll leave the answer there for now. We can talk more another occasion.
Saralumpo, another question. When Nama Khanda is more prominent to the mind, is it still necessary somehow to see the three characteristics of Rupa Khanda?
Of course, we are aiming to see the three characteristics or use them as like insights into the five khandhas. So that's Rupa Khanda, feeling, perception, mental formations, and sense consciousness. All of them. And partly it's just, the level of mindfulness, the subtlety of mind and insight to do that. You start with what's more obvious, the body, feelings, and move on to sense consciousness, thought formations, because they can be very subtle and very quick. But you have to apply these three characteristics, see all five khandhas in this way, to ultimately to see them as empty of self. To the point where you don't take ownership of them anymore. The mind is just not seeing them as a self or belonging to a self.
Saralumpo, are there any more questions? Looks like that's all of the questions, Lumpo.
Okay, well, very nice to talk to you tonight. Fairly sure we'll be back next week. And next week is Visakha Puja, so we'll be back next week for another session, but in line with the full moon of Visakha, the day we remember the Buddha's birth, enlightenment, and parinibbana. So an auspicious time. But for now, we wish you well, and may the blessings of the Triple Gem guide you and protect you.